have had some requests for editing, and so I thought I would just make you a video to show you. This is one of my favorite images here, and I'm going to show you the before here. So in order to save time, and it's pretty boring and tedious watching cloning, this is what I started with, and I just went ahead and went through and cloned out distractions. So this is where I ended up, and now I'll just continue on with my edit. So I always duplicate my background layer, and in this case I want to work in ACR because I want the HSL panel, which is right here. So the greens are pretty yellow here, so I'm going to change the hue of that, and I just start pulling the sliders until I like the way it looks. My child is attracted to me recording. So I pulled the greens. This side would be yellow, this side would be blue. I pulled them more towards the blue. The same with the yellows. I bumped that more towards the green side. Now I'm going to come to the saturation, and I'm actually going to desaturate the greens a little bit. They're a little strong there. And again, I don't have a certain number. I just do it like I do when I cook, and I do it until it looks right. So the luminance panel, I want to brighten him, and by doing that I'm going to go for the colors that are in skin tones, which would be red, orange, and yellow. And I'm just going to pull up the reds a little bit, and the oranges, and the yellows. Also, I'm going to come to the split toning panel, and I really want to warm his skin up. So in order to do that, I'm going to add yellows in the highlights. It's kind of an orangey yellow. And 5% on the saturation. I'm also going to do the same thing for the shadows, the exact same numbers. And that really helped his skin quite a bit there. So now we're going to go back into Photoshop. And let me give you a little before and after. So there's before, there's after. And I love what that did for him and the light on him. Little man here was pretty done with me at this point. This was last July when we shot this, and it was melt your flesh off of the bone, hot and humid already by 9 o'clock in the morning. But I convinced him to go for a little walk with me. His favorite book is The Giving Tree. So when his mom told me that, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And we found this kind of decaying log here that really fit the story. And so he sat down. He just decided he was done. He sat down to read his book, and when he opened it, this book made the most perfect reflector and bounced the light right back up on his face. His mom was just out of the frame here, and she was trying to get him to look at me, and I was waving her off going, "No, he's perfect, leave him alone." So anyways, that's how I ended up there. So I did something a little bit different with this image than I normally do, and I used a texture overlay on this, and I'm going to show you how to do that here. I'm just going to do place embedded, and let me find the one I used from Jessica Drosden. Her textures are just amazing, and it's not something I can duplicate. Doing gradients and curves and all of those good things. So this is just fast and easy right here. And I'm going to change the blend mode to soft light, and that's pretty strong there, so I'm going to bring the opacity down quite a bit. It's about there. And that really brings the focus to him and the light on him, and I like that. So I want to kind of deepen the shadows here a little bit and really just bring the focus to him just a little bit more. So I'm going to do a curves layer, And I'm just going to go to the middle here, to the mid-tones, and I'm going to pull it down, probably about a box worth. And then I'm going to invert that. And now I'm just going to paint on where I want to darken. Instead of doing a full vignette, I just want to paint it on in the spots that I want it. By doing it this way, it gives me a little bit more control of where it goes. So now I like a little bit of a matte effect, and I've kind of come up with my own way of doing it. Most people do it through a curves layer or a levels layer, but I like it through the exposure level. And I'm going to bump the exposure just a little bit. And then the offset here is really where the magic happens. And that's where it will just give that nice soft matte. Gives a little bit more of a dreamy look, I think. So we're going to go right there. I'm going to sharpen just him. I really don't need, might sharpen the tree a little bit too, just to bring that out. So I do a stamped visible layer, and I like the high pass filter versus unsharp mask, and I kind of like where that is already set there. I just want him to kind of look like a pencil outline is what I'm looking for. And I'm going to change that to overlay. And again, I'm going to add a layer mask and invert it. So I'm just going to hold down Alt while I click on that layer mask. And now I can just paint this on exactly where I want it. And I love this little bit of hair that's sticking up there. It's just such a boyish thing. I think it just is extra sweet. I like the texture of the trail here a little bit, so I'll go ahead and sharpen that. And the tree trunk, since it's part of the story. And I'm going to paint some light onto the tree here. I think it got a little bit dark. And I'm just going to do that with the curves. And again, I'm going to go to the midtones. And now I just want to pull up. Last time I pulled down, I'm just going to pull those up. And again, I'm going to invert that so that I can just paint it where I want it. Just bring some light back in there on his pants a little bit. Yeah. Maybe a little bit of the greenery too. Okay, so to finish this, I really like these presets. It's a plugin from Google Nix from the Color Effects, and I like their Pro Contrast. It's something I think I can't get with just doing a straight contrast layer or curves or levels. This is pretty effective. So I'm going to pop out here, and it's already, my settings are already in there. So let me just show you a before and after with it. And that just adds an extra little punch to it. So that's the dynamic contrast is at 20%, a color correct, or a correct contrast is 5%, and color cast correct at 6%. Okay, so let me show you that layer there. And I might pull down the opacity on that. And that's the nice thing about working in Photoshop is you can go back and adjust and adjust and adjust until you're happy with it instead of having to start over. I think I like that. So that's what I would do with that. Now I would just save it. So I hope that helps. Thanks.